Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm Kristen Johnson. Welcome.
And it's good to be back. We've been off for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you guys have been enjoying yourselves. We've gotten to try a few new things. And in the last couple of weeks, we've been working real hard on our Dark Horse Paranormal podcast. The Native American podcast that's coming out about Native American hauntings, and has been a grizzly bear of sorts to get done for some reason.
It's a lot of facts that we've...
There's a lot of history.
A lot of facts that we came up, found in...
Got some really good spirit box clips and an EVP in that. And we're getting that together and trying to make it, fun and not just history, but we want to include the history too because it's important to us. So look for that probably at the end of the week. We tried the Estes method last week.
Yes, we did.
And if you guys are not aware, this is getting popular from the show Hellier. That's on Amazon Prime right now, and was developed by a couple of gentlemen on that show, Connor Randall and Carl Pfeiffer, who were resident researchers at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. Curious that Colorado keeps coming up, and I'll explain that in a minute. Whereas you do a spirit box session, and the person that is listening to the spirit box has noise canceling headphones on and wears a blindfold and cannot hear the questions being asked. And we had a little experiment with that, but unfortunately I had a couple glasses of wine and I took my medication. And most of the recording is me snoring, although we did have some interesting results just prior to that.
We did. It was really cool.
It was fun. And we'll do more on that. And
it's my turn this time. I'm going to be blindfolded.
Yeah. Well, I like that idea.
I know.
Yeah.
What you do.
Speaking of that, it's Fat Tuesday. It's Mardi Gras. And
would have got the beads.
I should be throwing some beads at you or something, right?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I don't know.
But we've got an awesome guest tonight. My very good friend, my co-author, and the person who got me started doing this radio business and writing business, Clarissa Vazquez. And she's on with us right now. Hey, Clarissa.
Hi, Clarissa.
What's happening?
What's going on? I want to thank you for that, by the way. And I have a chance to do so on the air for introducing me to this radio gaga and, of course, writing. We have a book together.
Well, the whole radio thing kind of happened by accident. I don't know if you remember, but you and I were doing a lot of interviews, promoting the book that we wrote together. Mm-hmm. And this one radio network, something happened and we got shortchanged on time. And so the guy that was running the network, he says, well, why don't I just give you an hour, of airtime to promote your book? He's like, Clarissa, you know what you're doing and everything. Why don't I just give you an hour of airtime to promote your book? And so I went, okay. And that kind of morphed into you and I having our own show. And so, the whole radio thing, it was like a happy accident.
That was Hidden World, though you were no stranger to the radio because you've had a radio show on and off for years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for our readers that don't know, I'm going to hold this up here. This is our book, and there are apparently very few copies left on Amazon, perhaps one. And the book is called Debunking Common Paranormal Myths, Exploring Psychosomatic Pareidolia. And this is a great book if you're into the paranormal and you want to not make mistakes like post orb videos and things of that nature. And we get real into like a lot of different topics, whether it is, audiophenia. What is that the right word?
Apophenia.
Apophenia. I'm sorry. It's been a while. I have not read this book in a while.
You helped write it.
I know.
You,
I think I wrote that chapter.
oh, did I write the apophenia chapter?
I'm not sure. We had the Yanni Laurel thing was popular at the time.
I think you wrote the Yanni Laurel chapter, but you know, a lot of people have approached me after having read the book and knowing my writing style and everything. They're like, did you write the entire book? And I'm like, no, Chris wrote about half of it. And they're like, no, it's almost like you wrote the entire thing. And people cannot tell which sections I wrote and which sections you wrote. And that's how well we work together. And going back and looking at it, as you and I have been doing the last couple of days, going back and looking at it, I can't tell either. I don't remember what I wrote and what you wrote.
Right? I know
Other
there are
than
certain parts of this. I'm like, oh, was that mine or hers? I don't know.
the
But there
real
is
world
a
explanations, like is Santa Claus coming to town and, I lost 50 pounds on the paranormal diet. That was all me. And the chapter titles, that was all me. But as far as the rest of the text goes, it was a 50-50 split.
yeah. We split up the quotes and yep.
Yeah.
And it was,
Oh, God, I remember the quotes.
and,
We had
and
so
then
much fun with that.
then there was a picture of Bigfoot. Which oddly enough, I ended up taking on that surname here on the radio with Kristen. And the Bigfoot needed some editing, the Bigfoot picture.
Yeah, I was trying to throw together a graphic, and I did Bigfoot standing in the middle of Stonehenge with a UFO hovering over it, as if it was being abducted. And somehow, some way in the graphic, you
His
were
hair
you were
was like
able
a
to
little
very
long or
yeah, you were
something
able to
in
very
a certain
clearly tell
area.
that Bigfoot in that picture was male. And I did not do that deliberately.
It wasn't an actual picture of, Bigfoot's schlong, but
Yeah,
there was
no.
something about the way
The
whoever
way
drew it, the
everything
way
was
they,
lined
they
up,
did the
yeah.
hair and the way it just came out. I was like looking at it going, God, that really doesn't look right. I
Yeah.
remember I did a
Yeah, in
little
fact, you
photo
called
editing
me.
there.
You called me. I answered the phone and you're like, Clarissa, Bigfoot has a dingle. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
And
That's
that's
great.
reflective of the sense of humor that goes throughout the book because it is a humorous book, and we both have senses of humor, thank God, and we go into all kinds of aspects of the
Well,
paranormal. Just some,
read the chapter titles, Chris. Tell your listeners about the chapter titles, and they will get a sense of our sense of humor in this very serious book. But that's what makes the book entertaining. It's a very serious book. It's very scientific. There's a lot of really serious information in it, but we wrote it in a way that keeps people engaged and you can actually understand what we're saying.
right. We have things like shadows, reflections, and portals. Oh my. Apparitions. Don't you see the man eating the hot dog? Audio matrixing. Let it snow. Investigation, divination. Say that 3 times fast. Things of that nature. There's a lot of good info in here, and if you want to get a copy of the first edition, get out there on Amazon. If it's sold out, you can message us. We still have a fan page up on Facebook. Chris and Clarissa fan page. You search for it, and I know I've got a few copies hanging around and they're signed.
Yep,
And,
I have a few signed copies also. So
we'll send them to you, and we'll take your money.
yeah. Yeah, because one of us is a poor starving writer.
But you have quite a few books.
I have 6 out now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want to get into those, but I thought I would ask you the typical normal question. When did you get into the paranormal, and what got you started?
Okay, this is really weird because I am so not used to being interviewed by you.
I can't imagine what this feels like.
I'm used to conducting interviews with you or being interviewed with you. It's like, and for you to say, when did you get involved in the paranormal? I really want to go, dude.
That
You
must
already
seem really
know.
weird. Well, you remember that when we did those radio interviews, like promoting the book,
Mhm.
and I had no experience with this. I would get nervous and sometimes try to interview the interviewer.
Yeah.
It was like my, insecure moment. Well, I'd be like, well, what was your scariest moment?
I'll tell you yours if you
Of
tell me.
course,
I'll tell you mine if you tell me
Clarissa
yours.
dragged me out to spooky South Coast for our first interview.
That
I
must
think
have
I
been
told you
wild.
that, Chris.
Yes.
like
No,
nothing
thank you.
nothing like starting there.
Right.
Not that
Could have
those
been
guys
worse.
Tim
Could have been
weren't
coast to
great.
coast AM.
Coast to coast. Yeah, with
They
George.
were Tim was awesome and everything, but I was just like,
Yeah,
really?
deer in headlights, like I get. Yeah.
Can we just be like, on some unknown show first and do a little trial and error? No, Tim Westbrook. All right, thanks.
Great.
But it was awesome and it went
You
good.
did fine. I mean, considering that I was in the night of that interview, I was in Gettysburg on hotel Wi-Fi, and my best friend who was traveling with me was snoring in the room, and you could hear her snoring on the air. And and my other friend, there was four of us, piled into a Ford Fusion, and we did this enormous paranormal investigation road trip. We hit 24 states in 15 days and
Wow.
investigated along the way. And so my other friend is like trying to lightly cover my best friend's face with a pillow because
Lightly
she was
being the key
snoring.
word.
Yeah, well, yeah, lightly, because we didn't want to kill her.
Right.
But the snoring was being broadcast, and so, compared to what was going on my end, you and your nerves did great.
Awesome.
Yeah. But I thought that was kind of fun. It was like a trial by fire,
Yeah.
and certainly because that's a show I like a lot, and you know
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Cool.
what got me interested in the
yeah.
paranormal field?
Yeah. When did you start this
Circle
craziness?
back to that.
I may know the answer to some of these questions, but
You
our
you
listeners
do
won't.
know the answers to these. And it's like I said, part of me wants to go, dummy, you already know this. But I have to remember that we're doing a show and I'm actually being interviewed on, a radio network, and your listeners don't know this. And Kristen probably doesn't know this unless she tuned into one of our other interviews. So I got started more than 20 years ago. We're going to say, let's see, 24 years ago, 25, 24, 20, 24 years ago. I had my first paranormal experience while I was enlisted in the service. And the experience that I had, it didn't occur to me at all to be frightened. I was just really curious, like, well, what the bleep did just happened here? And
You were in the Air Force, correct?
I was in the Air Force, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your service as well.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yes.
And essentially, I saw a man who was wearing a service uniform, but it wasn't of the time period. It was more of the olive drab combat fatigues that you would have seen in the 60s and 70s. And he walked through a cinder block wall. And this is the Reader's Digest version of what happened. This is the condensed version of what happened. But he essentially walked through a cinder block wall and disappeared. And so the internet was still in its infancy. I did not have Google or Bing or, or any of those. There was no, hey Siri, what did I just,
There might have been a Lycos. I remember Lycos.
Yeah, Lycos came along. Lycos came along in like 2000.
CompuServe.
There was no, Alexa, did I just see a ghost? Oh crap, I said that too loud. Okay, she didn't answer me.
Oh, that's good.
That's been recorded somewhere, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I almost turned on my unit there. So I went off base to the local library and got a library card, and I started checking out and reading every book that I could get my hands on. And paranormal TV wasn't a thing yet. So, occasionally there was something on Unsolved Mysteries or, or something to that effect, but, ghost hunters hadn't hit the television screens.
Sure.
And so I started reading every book I could get my hand on, and, started learning about EVP and using an analog tape recorder and using Polaroid cameras because the images could not be altered during processing. It was like instant gratification. And
Right.
so I started running around, with a Polaroid camera and a big old clunky analog tape recorder. And
Still not a bad way to go.
yeah,
A lot of people
except for the
prefer
fact
analog,
that Polaroid
or
is
they'll use
so
both.
stupid expensive.
It is, and it was then in a way too.
Yeah, it
they were
was.
always kind of
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Back then, it was about 50 cents a photo.
yeah.
But I was single and in the service and had no bills. I had no, I wasn't a mom yet. Wasn't even married yet at that time. And so, the only bill I had really was my truck payment and my car insurance and the fuel to get around to all of these reported haunted locations. And so I could afford the Polaroid film. And so it was, yeah, that's how I got my start was, 20 something years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that there was, paranormal investigations before ghost hunters. So it's an interesting point you make, in the old Hans Holzer books that, I'm a fan
Yeah,
of.
Hans Holzer, Ed Warren,
Sure.
I read anything I could get my hands on.
And you can take that back to the spiritualist movement really further than that if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, take it all the way back to the Fox sisters and their whole little system of knocking and tapping and everything. Good times. I think technology has advanced considerably since the days of the Fox sisters.
Yeah.
The fakes are able to fake it a whole lot better.
Right.
Right.
But in truth, it does seem like anything works. Technology doesn't seem to matter. It could be anything from divining rods to, as a seem to matter. But we're on something.
Didn't experiment not too long ago. My fish tank it ran low water, so it like broke down like a battling some. So I have a little bit of haunting in my house now. So a bunch of spirits. So I put on my recorder. I said, "Okay, whatever you'd like to say to me," and I put it right next to the fish tank. And honestly, ask Chris. All you can hear is water itself. You can hear and trying to tell me stuff.
You hear Chris' name, you hear words, and it's not really clear, but it's right there, and it's kind of like that idea.
The water noise.
Like using
Use
white
like
noise.
A white noise generator, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
kind of like that,
the
but
water
it's
really
the
cool.
dripping of the water. And
Yeah.
you can hear it. We have a recording of that. We've been planning to use this.
How big is your tank?
55-gallon.
Is it a long or a bow front?
Long.
It's a 50 long. So
Yes.
do you have an Aqueon double hang on or do you have a canister on there?
No, the double hang on.
Double hang on? Yeah.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. So
it makes a lot of noise when it goes down.
Well, and what you can do to increase do you also have an air bubbler?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So what you can do is take your pump for your air bubbler and put it on the lid for your double hang on.
Okay.
And this is going to sound absolutely nuts, but
no, nothing sounds nuts to us right now.
The hum from your air pump sitting on top of your filter, or depending on if you've got a lid system that isn't glass, if you don't have a glass lid, if you've got the the plastic lid.
Plastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could do it there, but it won't be as loud as if you put it on your filter, because your filter has is hollow to a certain extent. So it's going to amplify the hum from your air pump.
Okay.
See, I've got 6 aquariums, so I I know how to generate white noise. And so yeah, try putting your pump on top of your filter.
I'll create a
Awesome.
vibration and some
Yeah,
noise.
that's
Well,
I
what
like.
it'll do is
That's just interesting.
it'll amplify
Yeah.
the hum.
Mhm.
So you'll still have the white noise, but it won't be as loud as the water trickle.
Okay, I will do that experiment. Thank you. So I guess you've done this.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. I
I
didn't know that.
stumbled onto the air pump thing by accident because I was moving things around and needed to get my air pump out of the way because it kept it would vibrate itself up against the wall and it would just sit there and against the wall.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't have that. And so I was moving other things and just temporarily set it on the filter. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, that would be a really good white noise generator because it's a consistent sound.
Right. Exactly. It's the way I felt too.
We definitely got some kind of communication in there. I mean, you can hear words, but you can't make
definitely hear
most
my
of them
name.
out.
But you
a
hear my
couple of
name
things,
several
you
times.
hear this word, you hear that word, but you can't put it all together in anything.
Right.
At least not yet. We've tried, and that's it. It's just interesting.
It
It's like
is.
if there's a way to connect, I think they will find it. And some of that is what I want to add to the book because we've found that out, and among several other things. I want to work with creating a feedback loop with video and doing that and going through it frame by frame.
Yeah, you and I talked about that last night on the phone, I think, and I want
Right.
to learn a little bit more about that because
Very interesting.
that's
The
something I want
results
to try.
can be like, whoa, oh my God, that's totally that person's face.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Right.
that's a real thing. So that's kind of cool. And you've done a lot of work with the Connect.
Oh, the SLS. I would love to hear
Yeah.
that.
Well, I've done a lot of work with both the XCam or X crikey. The Connect version and the other one. We have both on the team, and I've worked with both of them. I think the other one's called the XCam or something. And both have their advantages and disadvantages. But the one thing I want to point out when you're using SLS technology, because we are in the day and age. And I think you and I kind of talked about this last night, with Gen X being, the last do it the hard way generation. Everything, beyond Gen X has been all about instant gratification. And so there are investigators out there that are looking for that instant gratification. And that's what makes the SLS camera so appealing because it gives the illusion of instant gratification. You can actually look at the screen and everything and and it's anomaly detected.
It's going to try to draw an anomaly in any way it can.
Yes.
I mean, I like the idea of the infrared rays projecting across, and if something crosses that light spectrum that looks at all like a body, the algorithm's going to try to create a body.
Right.
But I don't know that it's foolproof, but I don't have a lot of experience with it.
Yeah, no, it's not. It is not. There are way more false positives out there than there are actual detected anomalies, and it'll pop up on there, anomaly detected, and it'll put a little stick figure up there in the shape that it thinks it's seeing. And then, and people are like, oh my God, I just, I saw proof of a ghost and, holy crap. And, when really, what it's picking up is, because you're using this in the dark and there is some difficulty to actually see in the dark after you've been looking at that really bright screen, that Your eyes
True.
really do not adjust well going back and forth from the screen to your surroundings. And so what you fail to see is, over in the distance where it's detecting an anomaly, there is actually a floor lamp, that is, it's about 4 feet tall, and kind of human shaped, if you think about,
Right.
lampshade and everything. And so it's detecting that, as a human shaped anomaly. And so people really need to take their surroundings into consideration, because the SLS cameras, regardless of which version you have, is very, very, very prone to pareidolia. It
Yeah.
is it is
Like
making a conclusion out of incomplete data.
Mhm.
In
Uh,
fact, that's its job.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The one nice thing about the Connect version is that it does give you an infrared picture side by side to your SLS image. It gives you an infrared picture right next to it, so you can actually see, what you're looking at.
Hmm.
You can actually see in the dark what you're looking at. It gives you a side by side view, and that's nice. But it does not give you, the audio input or the heat signature or anything like that. So, both have their advantages and disadvantages. Um, and really, if you can use the instrument and detect an anomaly with it, and then follow it with the instrument without losing it,
Mhm.
then chances are your anomaly is legit. But if you move, a fraction of an inch and it disappears, you've got nothing.
It was trying to make something out of nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Electronic pareidolia. We should write a book about
There
electronic.
you go.
We'll
well, I
just
think
stay
it
on
should
the
be part of the second
pareidolia page.
edition, because you've had some time with it now. And
Mhm.
there's definitely some other things I want to
Agree.
try. And I've certainly learned, like in this last year, it's been very, very much a eye-opening experience as far as paranormal occurrences go
Yeah.
between Kristen and I. And it's just been like pretty mind-blowing, some of the things that have happened. But speaking of mind-blowing,
Uh-oh.
keep an eye on the time. You sent me some pretty amazing EVPs, and
I was blown away.
our
That's
listeners
I
that
could
we would
not.
play some of these
Yeah.
EVPs because they are so good. And before we get into that, I'm going to mention real quick because I don't want to lose it time wise. You founded the Colorado Coalition of Paranormal Investigators back in 2004.
Yes.
Yes, and you've been at this. I think most of these clips come from investigations that you guys have done since then. Were they
All
all?
of the clips that I sent you are CCPI files. Yes.
Yep, they're
Okay.
CCPI files. That's what I thought. And I wanted to mention that before we went forward, just so we don't lose sight of it, because 2004, that's a long time. It's 2020,
Absolutely.
16 years.
Yep.
Your team's been together, and that is a tough thing to do
hmm
these days. And
We are the second longest running
kudos,
team in the state of Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah.
kudos to that.
Yeah. There's one other team in the state that has been around longer than us, and they've only been around since '99.
And
So
you
they've
guys
got
are
5 years
busy.
on.
They may have that time, but I know from talking to you how busy you guys are. I mean, you're out pretty much every weekend. You guys are really booked pretty solid. So this is not a team that investigates 4 times a year. This is a team that is out all the time.
Yeah. Yep. We are out all the time. Well, I can't say we because I'm currently on leave of absence, but the team is out all the time.
Well, it's 16 years. You've been out there most of the time.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And it kills me to be missing investigations right now, but it's something that I have to do, at this, because it is, for me to investigate right now is not safe. I've been a, firm advocate, of, do not investigate when you're sick or injured or even emotionally susceptible. And so, Chris, as my life kind of went in the toilet last year between, deaths and illnesses and injuries and broken bones and oh my God.
Mhm.
No, I understand. You have had a real year from hell.
Oh my
And,
God.
I'm sorry
you know,
to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, my life went in the toilet, but I'm coming back.
you're bouncing
Good.
back.
Yeah.
She is.
You're coming back. So
These, yeah, I could not stop listening to these clips, Clarissa. I could not. I was like, these are unbelievable. I've never heard anything so great, so clear.
Yeah,
the
well,
clarity
I
is
wasn't gonna send you the Class C stuff, the
Well, no, but from what we're getting now, excuse me, we've only gotten one really good one like that. Most of them are very, they're very light,
very
but these
faint.
are great.
These
Yeah.
are very,
And
very
these are
clear.
EVPs. These are not ITC attempts.
Correct. These are
Right.
the 3 clips
Legit.
we're going to play tonight are just straight up EVPs you received. I believe these are all untouched, correct?
Yes.
Just the raw recording.
Yeah, it's just
And-
the raw
and,
recording. I don't edit.
You really need to listen to them because the voices are so clear. It sounds like another person in a room. Their voices are as loud as the other people in the room.
Yeah.
It's not the whispery,
You want me to set them up,
Ah,
or which one?
No,
which
no,
one
Joe,
are you gonna
Joe
play
will do this for us.
Okay.
The first clip is Dead Bird.
Okay, because
Maybe you want to
I
give
can
us a
tell
little
you the
background
story.
on Dead Bird?
That's what I was asking. You want me to set this up?
Yeah, please.
So Dead Bird was we were investigating a 3-story farmhouse in western Colorado, and everyone in the building, it was vacant. The owners could not keep it rented. Tenants would, sign a lease, and within 30 days were breaking their lease saying, keep my deposit, I'm out. And every investigator was having a personal experience tailored to their comfort threshold. People that were unnerved by being touched were being touched. People that were unnerved by seeing things were seeing things, or hearing things, and everything. And I was getting a little torqued because everybody's having all of these personal experiences and I'm not. And so there was electricity in the house, but no heat. The gas had been turned off, but there was electricity there. So we went to use the wood burning stove, but we had to knock all of the dead birds out of the stovepipe before we could get a fire going. I know, really gross, right?
Right.
And
not
so,
my idea of kindling.
Yeah, no. So we got the fire going, got the house heated up. We're investigating and everything. And then myself and 2 other investigators later that night, we were up in the attic area, and I'm looking through the attic using a night owl monocular, which allowed me to see in the dark, but it didn't record. And I look down on the floor across the room, and I see what looks like a dead bird on the floor. And you hear me and the audio recorder was 15 feet away from me. It was far away from me. So you hear me almost, I wasn't whispering, but because of the distance, it sounded like I was whispering. And you hear me go, "Ew, what is that?" And this voice comes, listening to the audio file afterwards, you hear this voice comes back and says, "Dead bird." And then you hear me go, "Hey, is there a dead bird in there?" And you hear the other investigators go, "Oh no, I don't know where," And so my personal experience, and it was tailored to my threshold because I wasn't unnerved until after I got home and listened to that audio file and discovered that who or whatever was in that house was in my head. It knew I thought I was seeing a dead bird.
No, absolutely. And it says dead bird, and that's the part of the clip. And I want to clarify that because the voices are so distinct in the clip. Dead bird was said by no one in the room.
Correct.
It was an answer to Clarissa's questioning.
Yeah. Well, and you can hear the other 2 investigators. You hear one of them go, "Oh no," and you hear the other one go, "I don't know where." And so, you can distinctly hear, all 3 of our voices. And, when people ask me, what's the scariest experience you've ever had? That's the story that I tell them because they were in my head, and it's scary enough with just me in there. But to know that, there was some unseen person or entity or whatever, up in my noodle with me, why, yeah, no. Back the truck up. Yeah, no.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's the history on the dead bird clip.
Awesome. Joe, we're ready for clip 1.
Please.
Yeah, what is that? What? Is there a dead bird in there? Hello. Yeah, what is that? What? Is there a dead bird in there? Hello.
Sorry, guys, I ran it 3 times.
Oh,
So
it should be done by now.
that's great, though. Thanks.
No, that's great. It's good to hear that one a couple of times. It's a short clip, but the dead bird is so clear, and it's like, oh my God. And what a weird scenario.
Yeah.
Dead birds
It
and
really
stuff.
it was. Yes.
Yeah. What's the next one?
I don't want to die, and that's creepy because it sounds like a kid.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one was actually captured with a GoPro.
Okay.
We had a full spec GoPro station at the foot of the stairs. And Chris, you already know this, but Kristen and your listeners don't know this. It takes a lot for me to, number one, categorize a location as being haunted, and number two, for me to use the dreaded D word.
Okay.
And in all of the years that I have been investigating, and all of the years that CCPI has been around, we only had 2 cases that I would have categorized,
Yes, the D.
using the dreaded D word.
Right.
And because I think the investigators are far too liberal with that term.
Well, they are, and it's because of TV and
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. But in 2017, we had 2 more. So giving us a grand total of 4 for the year. That was also the same year that the Vatican sanctioned like 500,000 new priests priests to become exorcists.
Mm-hmm.
It was all happening in the same year, and we're like, what the heck? We had
Rising trend.
2 cases
Right.
in Western
TV or
Colorado
not,
that
yeah.
we are officially categorizing as demonic, and the Vatican is sanctioning, 500,000 new exorcists.
Do you
What is
suppose
going on?
the Vatican could have been influenced by Ghost Adventures, or am I really going out on a limb there?
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know that Bagans has that much pull to bend the Pope's ear.
Ben the
But
Pope's here.
but then again, maybe the Pope has a thing for 2 tight
It is-
t-shirts and
It has
enormous
become
biceps.
a popular thing. Yeah. Some of these guys, there's a reputation there, but I'm not going to go there tonight.
Yeah.
Please don't.
But one of the criteria, or one of the common
bite.
beliefs is that the dreaded D word, in order to pull at the heartstrings of the living, they will disguise themselves as children.
Right.
Which is a very scary thought, because we have something like that going on with us right now, Chris and I.
We have
Yeah.
a child spirit we're dealing with. Yep.
Yeah.
And we
And
wonder,
so-
is it more? And yep.
Yeah.
I
And
think
so this clip was captured at one of our locations that was ultimately classified as being demonic in nature. And we did end up having to get the church involved to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the clip was captured with a GoPro camera. It was not captured with an audio recorder. It was captured with a GoPro camera. And you clearly hear this little girl, or what sounds like a little girl, just shrieking, "I don't want to die," and calling for mommy.
Oh, my God.
We're ready for that clip, Joe.
Sorry, I'm a freak. I got to play them several times when they're short.
That's fine. That's
right.
great.
Please,
Thank you.
Feel free.
Yeah.
We want them there. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool clip, and the childlike quality of the voice is kind of disturbing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, and I think we have one more clip, and then maybe we can talk about some of your books.
Is that what's this stuff?
What's
Yes.
this stuff? What is
Yeah.
the story about? What's this stuff?
That was actually a case that we worked in Utah, because we cover, Colorado and Eastern Utah because nobody takes Eastern Utah. Eastern Utah is like the redheaded stepchild of Utah. And so, so we cover it. And these people were so freaked out. They left their home for the entire weekend, and we got the house from Friday night to Sunday night. And so, we went in guns a-blazing, all of the equipment, it's like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We've got the time, let's do it. And so while we were setting up our stuff, we got, as you know, Susan has a boo buddy, and she had already set up.
Which
She
is
had
the
already,
bear.
yeah, the talking bear.
The
Yeah.
talking bear to let her
She
listen.
she hadn't turned the boo buddy on yet, but had turned on the audio recorder that she always sits next to him. And so, we're setting up all of our equipment and everything. And this was the only piece of credible data that we got all weekend. And it was
wow.
while we were setting up the equipment. And you clearly hear this voice go, "What's this stuff?" Very Valley Girl sounding,
Stuff.
like, I can imagine like Alicia Silverstone in Clueless or something going, "What's this stuff?"
It was at that point that they immediately left.
It says something a little
Said,
after it too.
We're haunting another house because you guys are setting up all this crap and we're not.
Yeah. What's this stuff?
What's this stuff? So
Yeah.
we're good for that clip, Joe.
You back, baby.
Cool, thank you. Isn't that funny? They are kind of like pranksters sometimes. You
Yeah.
wonder, are they goofing on us? Are they just
We wonder
Yeah.
this all the time.
messing
Yeah, and
with us?
there's dozens more EVPs on my website. So
Yeah, and what
not
website is that, Clarissa?
that
Where
is
can we find you?
coloparanormal.com. COLO paranormal.com.
Coloparanormal.com.
Mhm.
Excellent. And where can people find CCPI?
That is CCPI. coloparanormal.com.
I apologize. For some reason, I thought you had CCPI in the title of that website.
Well,
My
it
bad.
used to be. It
Oh,
used to
well,
be.
that's fine.
However, our domain got purchased out from under us, and I still owned an old domain back from when I was using like Yahoo Site Builder to, to do the website and everything. I had no idea I still owned it, but I tried it, and it's like, yeah, you still own this. You can use this. So our website changed, our web address changed, but it's still the same.
Well, that's a good site. That's very catchy, actually. Colo Paranormal. I like that. Cool. Great. Let's talk about maybe some of your books. We got a little bit of time left. You have a variety of other books that don't include me that are fantastic. My favorite,
I have 5 that don't
Ghost Hunting in Colorado. I really like this book because you go into the geological aspects of hauntings and crystals and the what's under the earth.
Yeah, there's some geological stuff. There's a lot of geographic psychic trauma. I really delve into that. I coined the phrase, the acronym GPT, and started calling it geographic psychic trauma, just like you and I came up with psychosomatic pareidolia.
One of us did.
No, we
I'll give
did
you
it
credit
together. We did it together. We did it together.
We did the book together.
That
is your phrase. It's a good one. I like
Yeah,
it.
psychosomatic pareidolia was
Crystals
the
are
brain.
thought to be like a recording, almost like a record player that can hold a memory or an imprint.
More like an amplifier.
Hmm.
Quartz crystals was used in radios for a long time, like transistor radios and stuff.
Correct.
Because it can amplify the waves and the frequencies and and send it out. And so there's been a lot of discussion about limestone, and it's like limestone is just calcified remains of dead plants and animals. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all. And so I started researching and looking into piezoelectricity and things like that. And when locations that have a higher mineral content in their geology, tend to be, based on, where people are saying, locations are haunted, um, tend to have higher activity than locations that sit on primarily limestone. And so, did a lot of work with that to, do that whole chapter in ghost hunting in Colorado, and also talked about, geomagnetic fluctuations and lunar phase and solar flares and all kinds of really fun stuff. And there's a great little tour guide in the back of the book of some of Colorado's most haunted locations, for people that decide, hey, I want to go check out Colorado. The back of the book has a neat little section, where you can check some stuff out. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That's awesome. You also have Phantom Trains and Haunted Rails of the U.S. out there.
That
Very
one has
interesting
really
take on the paranormal. People don't often talk about haunted trains, but it's a thing.
Well, that one has really surprised me because a few years ago, I don't even remember how many years ago it's been now, it's at least 5, I was looking for a Christmas present for my son and a friend of mine, both of whom were very much into trains and both of whom were very much into ghosts. And I'm like, I'm going to find a book about, haunted trains. Because you hear the stories, just like Phantom Hitchhikers and stuff. You hear the stories about haunted trains and haunted airplanes and stuff. And I couldn't find one. I could not find a book anywhere about haunted trains. I was getting really bummed. And I'm like, well, dummy, you're a writer. Why don't you write one?
It's easy solution to that.
And so
a very
I
interesting
did.
book. This
Yeah.
book is awesome. Yeah.
And that book has actually sold more copies than all of my other books combined.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the idea is just really interesting. Haunted trains, like, people don't talk about that. It doesn't get enough press, if you will.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
What would you say was the most haunted train in the U.S. and why do you think it is?
There was a train, and it was, believe it or not, I found the most haunted train or haunted railway stories in Colorado.
Really?
Yeah. And there was a train on the western slope of Colorado. It was the locomotive was the 109, and it was in a fatal crash. And they rebuilt the locomotive and put it back on the same route. And a short time later, it was in another fatal crash,
Hey.
and in different different areas. And they rebuilt it and put it back on the same route. And after the third fatal crash, they went, okay, we are decommissioning this locomotive,
Mhm.
and there have been no fatal crashes, in the area since. But at night, you can hear what sounds like a vintage locomotive whistle, coming through the canyon.
Wow.
You can hear the whistle of the Dread 109.
It's interesting because Colorado as a state really was built on the gold rush.
Yep.
Through history, and there were all these Native American treaties were
Yep.
broken, and they pushed
Yep.
back, and battles, and different atrocities that Chris and I have researched, and looking at different aspects of it.
Mhm.
And you have to wonder if that maybe plays a role in some of this haunting. Some of these things,
If you want some material for your research, Chris, go back and reread Ghost Hunting in Colorado, because I talk about 3 different events involving the Native Americans here in Colorado that have resulted in hauntings. There's the Battle of Milk Creek, the Meeker Massacre, and the Sand Creek Massacre.
Yeah, Sand
That's
Creek
primarily
Massacre I'm familiar
Sand Creek.
with, and I've spoken on that one before,
Mhm.
and it's
Yep.
pretty brutal.
Terrible.
Pretty brutal to have the surrender flags out there, run up the white flag, and you guys will be okay. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
we're just gonna kill you
Yeah, no.
one by one.
The Meeker Massacre and the Battle of Milk Creek are 25 and 35 minutes respectively from my house.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
So
you know,
we have a journey in October. Like, seriously, I want to put this together.
Mhm.
Chris and I, we need our own road trip.
Yes, we do.
do it. If you've got the means and you've got the desire, do it. I never turn down the opportunity for a road trip if I can do it.
You have a children's book, No Monsters Here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That book I wrote with the objective to empower children to take control of their surroundings, conquer their fears of the dark, and kind of explain to kids, what happens if a group of investigators comes into their house.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty good idea.
Yeah,
That's
and at the back of the book, there's a certificate, making the child a junior investigator.
Oh, that's really great.
Yeah, so
That's really cute.
it
I like that.
it teaches kids how to debunk, but also explains what's going on in their house if the investigators do have to come.
I wish I had one of
And
those.
you have a fictional or maybe semi-fictional book called Ghosts of the Heart.
Ghosts of the Heart is fiction, but it's loosely based on some of my actual experiences. And 3 of the characters in the book are actually different aspects of my personality. So a lot of people that read it, like to go, "Oh, that one's her. That one's definitely her." They most of the time they get 2 out of 3. I think there's only 1 or 2 people that have gotten all 3. But people like to read that one and go, "Oh yeah, that's her. Oh, that one's her." But yeah, it's loosely based on some of my actual experiences in the 20 plus years that I've been investigating.
And I know we're running out of time, but one of the big things I
Yeah.
wanted to cover with you was the Melrose Hotel.
Oh yeah.
That you are now the resident paranormal researcher, investigator, host, hostess
Yeah.
with the mostest. Tell
I
us
am
about that.
I am the paranormal guru at the Melrose Hotel, which for those who are fans of the show featuring the goofball with the too tight t-shirt, that location was actually on the show a couple of years ago, and the show fabricated a lot of what they claimed as far as the history of the show, and believe it or not, they didn't turn their findings over to the hotel owners. They just, packed up their stuff and left and said, "Thank you, see ya." But
Right?
yeah,
At
and
this
so
point, to come back, they have to talk to you.
yeah, in order to come back, they've got to go through me.
And this is the
and-
Melrose Hotel in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Yes,
A very haunted, very well-known haunted location.
ridiculously haunted. I love that place.
I can't wait to go.
Oh, I love that place. It's such a cool place. It is so old. It was built as a hotel. It has never been anything other than a hotel. It has never closed its doors. In its well over 100 years old. But if you recall, those old hotels didn't have private bathrooms. They had shared bathrooms, and there are only a handful of rooms that have private bathrooms in this building. A lot of the rooms have to share a community bathroom.
Right. That
And
was sort of
so-
commonplace at one time. Yeah.
Yeah, and they maintained that integrity aspect of the hotel as the years have gone by. So, you're staying in a legit haunted historical location, that may or may not have a bathroom. You may have
I
to
think
go
you have
check
a
it
book
out.
on haunted hotels coming up. I do. I think it's
Uh,
going to be in the works. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The idea about haunted
Melrose.
hotels, it was monkeyed with a while ago, but yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know. I've got
Yeah, I still have the Stanley out there, of course. And
the Stanley and the Hotel Colorado.
13, and yeah, there's quite a
Yeah.
few. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Colorado's pretty haunted.
yeah, I don't, and there may already be a book about Colorado's haunted hotels. I don't know. If there isn't, maybe I will write it. But
Well, maybe you should.
well,
I think you should.
I don't know. I've got so many other book projects in the works that.
Well, second edition of our book needs to
Yes.
come our way. And I've been giving this a lot of thought lately, and then what I want to add to it. And some of the things, especially that Chris and I have gone through this past year, have really kind of opened my eyes and widened my lens to like what is in the paranormal scope.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Bigfoot.
And the bunny.
We'd like to thank Joe Montaldo for his engineering and support.
Thank you, Joe.
Be sure to look for us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
You can also find us at Dark Horse Paranormal and Purple Raven Paranormal by searching those very same outlets. You can email us at bigfootandthebunny@gmail.com. Thank you.
Catch you later.
Bye.